Rain fell against the glass in soft, rhythmic taps, the kind of sound that made people lonely enough to reach for their phones. That's exactly what Mara Kessler, a 32-year-old administrative assistant living alone in a small apartment outside Chicago, did the night everything began. She wasn't looking for anything serious. She'd been through enough breakups to know better. But the silence felt heavier than usual, and loneliness had a way of weakening even the most disciplined hearts. She opened the dating app and scrolled through faces she didn't care about, smiling headshots, gym selfies, predictable bios. Nothing interesting, nothing real. Then she swiped to a profile that made her pause. Evan R., 34, photographer, looking for something genuine in a world where everything feels temporary. His profile wasn't flashy. No shirtless photos, no trying too hard poses. Just muted, natural light pictures. Him standing beside a riverbank holding a camera. Him laughing with a dog whose name he said was Jasper. Him sitting by a campfire under a starry night. Mara felt something shift in her chest. It looked peaceful, authentic, safe. She hesitated only a moment before swiping right. They matched instantly. Her phone buzzed. Evan, you look like someone who appreciates quiet moments. It was simple, observant, not the kind of generic opener she was used to. And just like that, something unlocked inside her. They talked for 5 hours that first night. Their messages turned into long paragraphs, Mara telling him about her childhood in a loud household where she was always the quiet one. Evan telling him about traveling across the country for photography projects, about always searching for honesty in a dishonest world. By the time the sky outside her window shifted from black to dull blue, Mara realized she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Understood. But something else happened too. Something she didn't understand yet. Evan asked questions that felt a little too pointed. Where did she live? Did she live alone? Did she work late? Did anyone check on her regularly? He masked her well, always slipping those questions between charming stories and poetic reflections. And Mara, softened by vulnerability and sleep deprivation, answered almost all of them without thinking. The next day, she woke with her phone still on her chest, his final message glowing on the screen. Talk to you tonight? It made her blush. It made her feel important. And because she had no idea how dangerous that feeling can become, she simply typed, yes. Days turned into weeks. Their conversations deepened. She told him things she'd never told her closest friends, fears, insecurities, dreams. He listened so attentively, it felt like therapy. He messaged her good morning, good night, and everything in between. He knew when she left work, when she got home, when she showered, when she ate dinner, when she slept. But they never video called. Not once. Every time she suggested it, something came up. Bad service, dead battery, traveling, lighting issues. Little cracks formed, but she plastered over them with hope. People get busy. People travel. Besides, he always explained himself with such sincerity that doubt felt rude. One night, after a particularly exhausting workday, Mara confided in him about feeling unsafe walking home in the dark. His response came instantly. I worry about you more than you know. I wish I could be there to keep you safe. It made her heart swell. It made her blind to the other part of the message, the part where he implied ownership, protection, possession. A week later, things shifted. She came home to find a package at her door. No return label, no note. Inside was a disposable camera and a message etched on marker on the camera body. For your smile, let me see your world. It wasn't creepy enough to alarm her. If anything, she thought it was sentimental, even cute. She messaged Evan immediately. He responded within seconds like he'd been waiting. Take a picture of yourself first. She laughed it off at the time. But later that night, when she finally picked up the camera again, her hands shook slightly. She wasn't sure why. Still, she lifted it and snapped a picture. The next day, she dropped the camera off at a 1-hour photo service. She didn't even tell Evan. She intended it to be a surprise. But when she returned to pick up the photos, the employee gave her a confused look. Did someone else come to pick these up earlier today? Her stomach dropped. No, she said, just me. The employee frowned, flipping through the paperwork. Well, someone called asking about them, knew your name, knew the camera type, said he was your boyfriend. He laughed. Guess he's excited. Mara felt something cold creep down her spine. She forced a smile, grabbed the photo envelope, and hurried out. Inside her car, she opened the photos. Most were harmless. Her kitchen, her bookshelf, a few awkward selfies, shots of her houseplants. Then she reached the last photograph. Her breath caught. It was a picture of her bedroom window, taken from outside at night, from an angle that suggested the photographer had been standing in her yard. Mara's hands trembled as she stared at the photo. She felt watched, exposed, violated. She didn't want to believe it was Evan. Couldn't believe it. He cared about her. He was gentle, kind, thoughtful. But then her phone buzzed. Evan. Did the pictures turn out? Especially the last one. Her blood went cold. She looked around the parking lot, heart hammering, suddenly aware of every parked car, every shadow, every possible hiding place. She typed with trembling fingers. How did you know about the last picture? The 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then finally, because I wanted you to know something. I'm closer than you think. Mara locked her car doors instantly, but that didn't calm her pounding heart, because something else occurred to her, something worse. She had never told him which Photoshop she used, never told him where it was, never told him she dropped the camera off, which meant one chilling truth. He already knew her routines, her neighborhood, her patterns, her life. And he wasn't just watching. He was planning something she hadn't allowed herself to imagine yet. Something deadly. The rain hadn't stopped. It drummed endlessly on Mara's windshield as she sat frozen in the parking lot, clutching her phone like a lifeline she wasn't sure she should use. The world outside blurred under heavy drops, but her mind was clearer than ever, sharp, terrified, painfully awake. For weeks, she had invited this man into the most private corners of her life through conversation, vulnerability, trust. And now she realized he had been standing at the edges of those corners all along, watching like a hunter, waiting for an animal to let its guard down. Her throat felt tight, and she forced herself to breathe, to think logically. Maybe he was joking. Maybe this was some kind of dark humor. But her gut screamed otherwise. The last photograph burned in her mind. The angle, the distance, the eerie stillness of the frame. Someone had stood outside her window at night. Someone who knew where she lived. Someone who could have broken in, taken it a step further, and she would have slept through it, blissfully unaware. She tried calling a friend at first, Julia, her closest confidant, but the call rang out, then voicemail. She considered calling the police, but what would she say? That a man she'd never met sent her a creepy message? That a photo she couldn't prove he'd taken suggested he was stalking her? She imagined the officer's bored expression, the shrug, the paperwork that wouldn't be filed. Stalking cases rarely got attention unless blood had already been spilled. So instead, she drove. Not home, not anywhere predictable. She turned left, then right, then again, until she found a well-lit 24/7 grocery store parking lot. As she pulled in under the bright floodlights, she checked her mirrors. No cars followed her. No shadowed figures lingered. She took comfort in the artificial brightness, like stepping out of a nightmare into a temporary moment of safety. Her phone buzzed again. Evan. You left the photo place fast. Everything okay? Her stomach lurched. He had seen her. He had been there, watching. The realization settled into her bones like ice. She typed slowly, trying not to reveal how shaken she was. Mara. I'm fine, just busy. The 3 dots appeared immediately, pulsing like a heartbeat that wasn't hers. Evan. I'm glad. I hate when you're scared. Makes me feel like I failed you. Failed her? As if he had some role in protecting her. As if they were a couple. As if he was entitled to her fear, her safety, her life. She didn't reply. She shoved the phone into her bag and sat there for several minutes, trying to gather herself. The grocery store lights cast long shadows across the pavement, stretching into the darkness. A few late-night shoppers walked in pairs or alone, oblivious to her unraveling world. She decided to go inside. Not to buy anything, just to be around people. To breathe air that wasn't heavy with dread. The automatic door slid open with a sigh, and warm fluorescent light washed over her. For a moment, she felt a fragile sense of normalcy. Children begged parents for candy. A cashier joked with a customer. An older couple compared cereal boxes. Life moved on. No one knew that Mara Kessler was being hunted. She wandered the aisles aimlessly, trying to calm her racing thoughts. But every reflection in the freezer glass looked like a watcher. Every man turning a corner, she flinched. She carried a basket to look less suspicious, though it stayed empty. Then her phone vibrated again. Her pulse quickened as she saw the notification. Evan. You shouldn't be at the grocery store this late. Her knees almost buckled. He knew. He knew exactly where she was. She whipped around, scanning every face, every aisle. Was he here, watching her through a shelf? Standing at a distance, pretending to look at produce? Or was he outside, in his car, tracking her every move through some unseen lens? Her heart thudded violently in her chest. She typed shakily, Mara, how do you know where I am? This time, the 3 dots didn't appear. No immediate response. The silence was somehow worse, thick with threat. She walked quickly toward the front of the store, abandoning the empty basket near a display of canned soup. Her breath grew shallow. The phone buzzed as she reached the exit. Evan, because I care, and because you shared your location with me weeks ago. Don't you remember? Her mouth went dry. Had she? Had she really? She couldn't think straight. She remembered a night when they had been talking about safety apps, him suggesting she share her location for fun, half joking, and she had laughed and said, sure, why not? She had forgotten about it entirely. Her phone, her lifeline, had become his map. She stepped outside, gripping her keys like a weapon. The parking lot felt different now, too open, too vulnerable. She scanned for unfamiliar cars, but everything looked suspicious under the cold lights. Her car felt miles away. She walked briskly, not running, because running would mean she was terrified, and she didn't want him, wherever he was, to see her fear. She unlocked her car, slid inside, locked the doors immediately, and turned off her phone. For the first time in weeks, she cut Evan's connection to her. The silence that followed felt both liberating and suffocating. She drove to a motel. Not a good one, not a safe one, just the first one she saw. A dimly lit place with peeling paint, a fading vacancy sign, and a front desk clerk who barely looked up when she checked in. She paid cash, kept her head down, avoided small talk. Her hands trembled as she accepted the room key. Inside the room, she locked the door, latched the chain, and shoved a chair under the knob. The carpet smelled stale, and the air conditioner rattled like something alive. But it was away from home, away from her predictable routines, away from him. She sank onto the bed, curled into herself, and pressed her fists to her eyes. The fear wasn't the kind that made her scream or cry. It was colder, quieter, heavier, the kind that settled deep inside and whispered that she was not safe, not even now. She turned her phone back on an hour later, hoping for no messages, hoping that maybe, somehow, she had overreacted. Instead, the screen lit up with a single unread notification. Evan, you turned off your location sharing. Why? Her heart stopped. He knew instantly. He noticed everything. Another message appeared beneath it. It's okay. I found you anyway. Mara stared at the words like they were a death sentence. She slowly lifted her head, and that's when she heard it. A soft, slow footstep outside her motel door. Then another. Then the unmistakable sound of someone stopping right outside. The shadow beneath the door shifted. Someone was standing there, breathing quietly, patiently, as though testing how close they could get before she screamed. Mara covered her mouth with trembling hands, tears slipping down her cheek. The rain outside grew louder, drowning out everything except the soft inhale and exhale of whoever waited in the hallway. And in that moment, she understood one devastating truth. She had never met Evan. She had never seen his face. But he knew everything about her. And he was done watching. He was about to make his move. The footsteps outside Mara's motel door did not fade. They stayed still, planted, as though the person standing there had no intention of moving until she reacted. She held her breath, listening, her pulse thudding loud enough that she feared it might give her away. The cheap motel walls felt paper-thin, and every sound from the hallway seeped through with unsettling clarity. The hum of the vending machine, distant murmurs from other rooms, a television muttering through a wall. But beneath all of it was the distinct, unnerving quiet of someone standing perfectly still. Someone waiting. Minutes passed, long, stretching minutes that felt like hours before the doorknob moved. A slight twitch, the tiniest metallic rattle, as though the person standing there had no intention of moving until she reacted. She held her breath, listening, her pulse thudding loud enough that she feared it might give her away. The cheap motel walls felt paper-thin, and every sound from the hallway seeped through with unsettling clarity. The hum of the vending machine, distant murmurs from other rooms, a television muttering through a wall. But beneath all of it was the distinct, unnerving quiet of someone standing perfectly still. Someone waiting. Minutes passed. Long, stretching minutes that felt like hours before the doorknob moved. A slight twitch, the tiniest metallic rattle, as though the person outside was testing how firmly it was locked. Mara pressed further back against the headboard, her breath caught in her throat. Then came the second sound, a deliberate drag of fingertips across the door. Slow, almost curious, as if he wanted to feel the grain of the wood separating them. Her phone buzzed in her lap. She didn't look at it at first. She didn't want him to hear the click of the screen, the shifting of blankets, anything that might signal she was awake. But when the vibration continued, she risked it. She lifted the phone just enough to see the message. Evan, why are you hiding from me? Her lungs clenched. Another message followed instantly. I thought we were closer than this. The doorknob turned a second time, firmer now, as though whoever stood outside had grown impatient. Mara clamped a hand over her mouth to stifle the involuntary gasp clawing up her throat. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but there was nowhere to run to. No second exit. No window large enough to crawl out of, no safe corner to hide in. The room was barely large enough for a single bed, a table, and a flickering lamp. Another buzz. I can hear you breathing. Her blood ran cold. Was he playing with her, or was he truly that close? Was there a camera somewhere? A peephole reversed? A gap under the door wide enough to catch the sound of her fear? The footsteps shifted. The shadow beneath the door moved again. Slowly, deliberately, as though turning to face the hallway. Her muscles froze, but her mind screamed to do something. Anything. She grabbed her phone with shaking hands, pulling up the emergency dial. But just as she pressed 9, everything went quiet again. No steps, no breathing, no whispering, just silence. She waited. 10 seconds. 30. A full minute. Still nothing. Then, as though cruelly timed, a message appeared. Evan, you're making this harder than it needs to be. Her chest tightened until it hurt. She typed back with trembling fingers. Mara, leave me alone. Please, I don't want this. This time there was no delay. His answer came instantly, like he had been waiting with eager anticipation. You do. You just don't know it yet. Mara felt sick. Another message. Come outside. We need to talk. She shook her head even though he couldn't see her. No, absolutely not. She wasn't opening that door for anything. Her phone vibrated again, but it wasn't a message this time. It was a call. Unknown number. She rejected it. It rang again and again. On the fourth call, she turned the volume down and tossed the phone on the bed. She had to do something. She had to get out of here. Her eyes darted around the room, landing on the window. The frame was old, but it wasn't barred. She hurried to it, pulling at the latch. It stuck at first, rusted from years of neglect, but with enough force she cracked it open. Cold rain splattered inside. The window was small, but she could fit through if she angled herself. Behind her, the doorknob turned again. She froze. Then, a key slid into the lock. Her heart slammed against her ribs. The motel gave him a key, or he had stolen one, or he had convinced someone to give him access. The lock clicked. Mara didn't think. She acted. She shoved the window up, pushed the screen out with her shoulder, and climbed through into the bushes behind the motel. Scraping her knees, she didn't stop. She didn't look back. She ran. Behind her, she heard the motel room door creak open. She sprinted through the back lot, slipping on wet pavement, her breath ragged and desperate. The storm swallowed her footsteps, thunder masking her sobs. She didn't care where she went, just away. A parking lot. a dumpster, a line of trees. She rushed through them like a ghost, invisible in the darkness. But behind her, faint but unmistakable, she heard a man's voice cutting through the rain. Mara. She didn't dare look. She ran until her lungs burned, until her legs buckled, collapsing behind an abandoned storage shed near the edge of the forest. She pressed herself against the cold metal wall, trying to steady her breathing. She listened. Nothing but rain. But she knew better. Men like Evan didn't give up. Men like him learned, adapted, got smarter. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She hesitated before looking. Evan, you're fast. Her chest tightened painfully. Another message. I'll find you. You belong to me. And then one more. See you soon. Mar dropped the phone into the mud and backed away from it like it was a venomous snake. Her mind spiraled through every detail of the last weeks, the compliments, the jokes, the gentle charm, the slow manipulation, the way he made her feel seen and valued. It hadn't been affection. It had been reconnaissance. He had mapped her vulnerabilities piece by piece. He had studied her routines. He had prepared for this. This wasn't obsession anymore. This was a hunt. And Mara had just become the prey fleeing through the dark. She pushed herself to her feet, soaked, shaking, and utterly terrified. She looked into the forest ahead, then back at the motel, glowing faintly through the sheets of rain. There was no going back. She walked into the trees, every instinct screaming, every step trembling. And somewhere behind her, the darkness shifted, as if someone followed. The argument that ended their relationship wasn't loud, but it left a mark deeper than either of them expected. Maya tried to walk away quietly, blocking Alex on all platforms, deleting old messages, and unfollowing him everywhere. But violence in modern relationships rarely begins with shouting. It begins with silence, with withdrawal, with the sudden removal of access that one person believes they are owed. And Alex believed he was owed everything. In the days after the breakup, Maya noticed strange things online, new accounts watching her stories within seconds of posting, friend requests from profiles that looked like bots, and comments from users she had never seen before, all hinting at details only Alex could have known. She brushed it off as coincidence or paranoia, trying to focus on her classes and part-time job. But the digital world is a dangerous place when someone is dedicated enough to weaponize it. Alex's obsession was growing. He wasn't content with the breakup, and he certainly wasn't prepared to let her move on. Behind the glow of his cracked phone screen, he monitored her every post. He zoomed into reflections on her photos, studying backgrounds, reading every emoji, every caption, every like. To him, these were clues. She's talking to someone, he whispered to himself. She thinks she can hide. His anger was no longer emotional. It was strategic. One night, Maya matched with someone new on a dating app named Jordan. Their conversation was natural, charming, and surprisingly respectful. After weeks of tension and fear, Jordan felt like a breath of fresh air, someone who actually listened, someone who didn't try to control her. They talked for days. He seemed perfect. Too perfect. She ignored the small inconsistencies in his typing patterns, the odd timing of his replies, and the way he seemed to know things about her schedule she hadn't explicitly mentioned. Loneliness blinds even the brightest minds. Jordan suggested they meet. A quiet cafe, late evening, not many people around. Maya agreed, relieved to feel normal for the first time in months. As she prepared to leave her apartment, she received a message from an unknown number. Wear something blue. It suits you. Her breath caught in her throat. She had just put on a blue sweater. She swore under her breath, checking her windows, her doorway, her phone's camera. The message wasn't from Jordan's profile. It wasn't even from a number she recognized. The fear she'd been outrunning collapsed on her all at once. She messaged Jordan. "Hey, did you text me from another number?" The reply came instantly. "No, why?" She hesitated. Her thumb hovered over the screen. Something in her chest screamed that she should cancel the date, but Jordan pressed gently. "Don't worry, people spam numbers all the time. You're safe with me. See you soon." Against her instincts, against the scream of survival deep inside her, she went. Maya arrived at the cafe. It was nearly empty. One worker wiping down tables, a lamp flickering in the corner. She sat by the window so she could see everyone entering the door. Minutes passed. 15, 20. No Jordan. She checked her phone. No messages. She felt embarrassment mixing with worry. Did she get stood up? She decided to leave. But just as she reached the door, the cafe's front window caught a glare. A flash. Someone across the street was taking a photo. She froze. The figure stood under a streetlight, the hood of their jacket hiding their face, phone pointed directly at her. "Jordan?" she whispered, though she already knew the truth. Another vibration. A different number. A different message. Same threat. "I knew you'd come." Panic spread through her body like ice water. The figure stepped backward into the shadow of the alley, vanishing from the light. Maya rushed outside, looking around wildly, but the street was already empty. The silence of night pressed against her. She ran to her car, locked the doors, and sped away without looking back. That night, something broke inside her. Safety wasn't a feeling anymore. It was a memory. She blocked Jordan's account, deleted the dating app, turned off her phone, and curled into bed shaking. But the internet never sleeps, and obsession only grows stronger when confronted with resistance. At 3:17 a.m., her phone lit up despite being on Do Not Disturb. One notification, no sender ID, no number, just a file attachment. A photo, taken through her bedroom window from less than 10 feet away. Her scream cut through the night. This was not paranoia anymore. This was a hunt, and she was the target. And the worst part, she still had no idea that Jordan never existed at all. The moment Maya saw the photograph taken through her bedroom window, something inside her mind snapped. Fear wasn't an emotion anymore. It was a living creature crawling up her spine, whispering that every shadow was watching her. She scrambled out of bed, locked her door, pulled the curtains shut, and paced the room while her heart hammered in her chest. She didn't know who to call. She didn't know who to trust. She didn't even know where the threat was coming from. Because in the digital age, danger doesn't always knock on your door. Sometimes it slides into your DMs. Sometimes it copies your GPS metadata from a photo. Sometimes it becomes a person who doesn't exist. A ghost created by someone who refuses to let you go. Across town, Alex sat in the dark of his cluttered apartment, his face lit only by the reflection of multiple screens. Maya's fear, her reactions, her panic. He watched them all unfold like episodes in a show only he had access to. He had built Jordan's profile from scratch, stolen photos from a fitness model, borrowed personality traits from her favorite actors, speech patterns taken directly from their old conversations. He knew exactly how to make her trust him because he had once been the person she trusted the most. Maya was no longer a girlfriend in his mind. She was a project, a puzzle, a digital doll whose strings he pulled from behind the safety of a screen. Meanwhile, Maya sat on the floor clutching her phone, scrolling through the anonymous accounts that had messaged her over the past month. A pattern began to form. The usernames, the typing rhythms, the tone of voice. All of them felt strangely familiar. Too familiar. Her stomach twisted. She typed to one of the burner accounts. "Why are you doing this?" The reply came instantly. "We're not done," it said. "You belong to me." And then another message came from a different account. And another. And another. Her phone started buzzing so rapidly she dropped it. Notifications flooded the screen like a waterfall. Dozens of accounts, all telling her the same thing in slightly different words. "I'm still here. Don't ignore me. You won't get away. It was like being surrounded by a crowd of invisible faces whispering from every direction. She threw the phone onto her bed as tears blurred her vision. This wasn't random harassment. It wasn't a stranger. It was targeted, personal, designed to torture her. And then she made the first decision that would save her life. She called the police. A patrol car arrived within minutes. 2 officers stepped inside, scanning the apartment while Maya told them everything. The breakup, the fake profiles, the messages, the photograph through her window. One officer took notes, the other checked her locks and windows. They believed her. But belief wasn't the same as safety. "Do you have a suspect in mind?" the officer finally asked. Maya hesitated. She didn't want to say his name. Some part of her still didn't want to believe he was capable of this, but the truth was sitting in her throat like a stone. "Alex," she whispered. The officer nodded slowly. "We'll look into him, but until we have proof, you need to take precautions." They recommended an emergency phone, a neighbor she could alert, and staying with a friend for the night. Maya packed a small bag and drove to her coworker Lena's apartment, constantly checking her rearview mirror. Every pair of headlights felt suspicious. Every parked car looked like someone waiting. When she arrived, Lena hugged her tightly. "You're safe here," she promised. But safety is a fragile illusion when your enemy doesn't need doors or windows to reach you. He only needs Wi-Fi. At 2:41 a.m., Alex discovered she had left the apartment. He knew because he tracked the location metadata in one of the photos she uploaded earlier that evening, a photo she didn't even remember posting. He zoomed into the background, recognizing the building number reflected in a car window. He smiled, whispering to himself, "You can run. I'll still find you." He arrived near Lena's apartment an hour later. The street was quiet, washed in red glow from a distant neon sign. He watched the windows, studying the silhouettes inside. He didn't need to break in. He only needed to remind her he was still out there. At 4:03 a.m., Maya's emergency phone vibrated. No number, no text. Just one image. A photograph of her car parked outside Lena's building. Taken minutes earlier. Taken from the shadows. She tasted fear like metal in her mouth. Her breath turned shallow as Lena grabbed the phone, swearing under her breath. They called the police again. This time, the tone changed. The situation escalated. Units were dispatched to the area. Patrol cars circled the neighborhood. Officers searched nearby dumpsters, alleys, stairwells, but Alex was long gone. He was smart enough to never stay in one place for long. Smart enough to stalk without being seen. Smart enough to weaponize technology more effectively than they could track it. That morning, Maya agreed to file a formal harassment and stalking report. It was the beginning of a paper trail, one that would later be crucial. But paperwork doesn't stop an obsessed mind. It doesn't erase the digital fingerprints already scattered across her life. And Alex wasn't done. Not even close. As the sun rose, Maya checked her emails and found something new. Something more terrifying than the messages, more invasive than the photos, more violating than the stalking. She discovered that someone had created multiple fake dating profiles using her photos. Her name, her address, her workplace, all inviting strangers to come meet anytime. The accounts had already been viewed hundreds of times. Some had active conversations, some had scheduled meetups. Her world spun. Tears hit the keyboard. This wasn't just stalking anymore. This was exposure. This was danger multiplied. And while she stared at the screen, frozen in disbelief, another email arrived. The subject line, Why did you leave? She opened it. There was no text, just a video. A video recorded through her bedroom window weeks earlier. A video of her sleeping. A video where she never even knew someone was watching. Her scream echoed through Lena's apartment. This was no longer a nightmare. This was a countdown, a hunt, a digital trap closing tighter and tighter around her life. And the horrifying truth was becoming painfully clear. The person she feared most didn't have to break into her home. He had already broken into her life. And the deadliest part of this modern dating horror story was only just beginning.